Would you like to have more control over your income? Would you like to have the freedom to do what you want, when you want, with whoever you want, with no concern for money? Would you like to leave a financial legacy for your children and grandchildren? If what you're doing right now isn't getting you the results that you want, you need someone that knows how to make it happen. Here are the top 5 reasons that Dr. Sherry Peel Jackson is that someone. As a retired CPA, she's taught thousands of people how to get out of debt and reduce taxes. As a former IRS agent, she knows the inside story and the little-known deductions wealthy people use to stay wealthy. As a business strategist, she shares the techniques the wealthy implement to have their money work for them instead of working for money. She's also a real estate investor with U.S. and international property holdings. Dr. Sherry has over 3 decades of experience helping people keep what they earn, protect what they earn, and grow what they earn. Contact Dr. Sherry today if you're ready to start living the life of your dreams. SherryPeelJackson@gmail.com.
Well, welcome to Together We Serve. This is an important podcast, more so not just from the education standpoint, but there's a lot of motivation and inspiration you need to understand. Financial freedom. How many times do you go on YouTube, social media, the TV, and you get a commercial? Be financially free. My real estate course. Be financially free. Work with this finance. It's everywhere. Everybody wants to be financially free to be able to do what they want. But are you? I think the numbers are really high. It might be in the 90% that people are not financially free. My guests will correct me on that because that's why I love having great guests. But I think there's a power in that because if you're financially free, everything else fits in. There's no stress, no anxiety, family life's better, everything's better. So let's bring our guest on today. Welcome to the show, Dr. Sherry Peel Jackson.
Thank you so much, Steve, for having me on.
Financial freedom. What's your definition?
The ability to do what you want, when you want, with whoever you want, with no concern for money.
It's beautiful, succinct. We talked before the show in the green room. I call it the green room, kind of fun thing. Yeah. But you love vacationing. You just got back from a vacation, and it's something you love. That's financial freedom as well, right?
Yes. My Boston friend says financial freedom is when you wake up when your eyes open and you go to bed when your eyes close.
Oh, that's a powerful statement. I love that.
Yeah.
So let's jump on this. How can people be financially free to be able to live this life that you just mentioned?
Well, they have to go through a series of steps, and it depends on where they're starting. But if you're starting out flat broke, then you need to go through my KPG system. You need to learn how to keep what you earn, protect what you earn, and grow what you earn. So first of all, we need to learn how to decrease our expenses. We have too much money spent on conspicuous consumption, buying $120 gym shoes and all these different large purses and things that we can't really afford, putting those on credit cards and getting into debt. Once we realize that we need to decrease our expenses, then we need to figure out how to get out of debt. So I have a system as to how to get out of debt. You got credit cards, you got all these different things. When I was younger, I had 13 credit cards my family had, and I learned how to get that down to 1 credit card. So after we've reduced our expenses and then we've learned how to get out of debt, then we start on increasing income, which is very, very important. We first have to do the others, because if we only increase income and we're still spending like crazy, then it's not going to make a difference. Most people are in what I call the earn spend cycle. The earn spend cycle is when you get paid on Friday and then you go to the movies Friday night, and Saturday you go out and do something fun that costs money, and then Saturday night you go to the club, and Sunday you drop a couple of dollars in the plate at church, and then Monday morning or Sunday night you do your bills, you're paying your rent and all that, and then when you go to work Monday morning, you're broke and you just rinse and repeat. A lot of people are in that, and getting out of that takes a lot of discipline. Once you get out and you realize you need to get out of the earn spend cycle, you need to start a home-based business. People that are employees, unless you're very, very highly paid, usually do not get out of that. They do not get out of the earn spend cycle because of something called Parkinson's law. And it basically says the more you make, the more you spend. So if someone gets a $10,000 raise, within 6 months, their expenses have risen to the level of $10,000, and the cycle goes on. So being aware of that and making sure that when you make extra money in your home-based business, which you need, then you're taking that money and you're reinvesting part of it into the business to make the business grow. And then after that, or at the same time rather, you are paying off debt.
So it's interesting that you talk about, because it's usually a flip side. People, I'll just make more money and cover my debt. You say reduce your debt first and then worry about how you're going to increase your income, right?
Yes, because think about it. A lot of people make a lot of money. I know people that make 100,000. I know people that make, $1 million, and they're still in debt because they have not learned how to, what my father called, do. Um, when you make sure that you're not spending too much money, delayed gratification. My father taught me that as a child. So when people, especially people who maybe grew up in poverty, they don't have a lot, they want to go out and buy everything they're big and bad enough to do with that money. So just because you're earning $250,000 does not mean that you're properly managing your money. I know people that make $250,000 and they're in a lot of debt. I know people that are making $1 million, and if you don't know how to manage the money that's coming in, it makes no difference how much money you make. It's going to go out your pockets.
Yeah. Sounds like professional athletes. We hear a lot of stories of, they get that $5, $10 million bonus, and next thing you know, they've got more friends than they want and more cars than they need. And they go, wow, why am I broke when I retire 3 years later or 5 years later? How
That's the
important?
classic
Go ahead.
example.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and we see it. Celebrities, same way, same type of situation. How important is the accountability of somebody like you working with my money?
It's very important because you need somebody to kick you in the rear end when you go off track. And that's who I am. My clients, I produce results, and I don't want my clients disappearing for a while and, they come up with a new Mercedes Benz. And I'm like, no, we talked about this, don't do these things. I don't even believe in buying new cars. I believe in buying good used cars. Because if you buy a good used car and you drive it until the engine falls out of it, you save 5 years off your retirement. Well, how are you saying that, Sherry? Well, the payments that you would have been making on a brand new car, you save in that. And then saving that money and in getting out of debt with that money and investing that money, then you've taken money that you would not have had if you bought a new car, and investing it and paying off debt and saving, then you're going to be able to retire with something in your nest egg, rather than just people that go out and buy a car every 2 or 3 years because they like the brand new smell of a car.
Yeah. Money can be the greatest thing in the world, but could be the biggest evil. The devil's always chasing our money. How could somebody get started going, okay, I'm done. I love you, Dr. Sherry. What's my first step?
Changing of the mindset. We have to realize what money is for. We have to realize the priorities. There's something that I discovered, and I did a little bit of work in psychology about wants versus needs. And I'll give you an example. I'll do a seminar somewhere, and there are a lot of people at the seminar. Let's say it's a women's conference, and I get up there and I talk for an hour about finances and how to increase your finances and how to reduce your debt and all that. And then during the break, I go to my booth and the ladies say, oh, that was such a great, workshop that you did. And I really need to fix my finances. And then they'll march straight over there to the booths that have all of the big purses and the dresses and all that stuff and buy that stuff. People do not buy what they need. They buy what they want, until the time where their finances are just falling apart, and then they come running for me. Well, I tell people to be proactive and say, hey, you know what, before I get into a situation where I get caught up in what the Joneses have, and by the way, the Joneses are broke, they're broke,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that myself and my children know how to manage money correctly.
I've talked to a lot of financial people. That's the first time I've heard people say the Joneses are broke, because they are. They just overspend, leverage their credit to where they're buying all that stuff. And you look at, have a drop of a nickel in their bank account, and then they call you, like you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. Yeah. They some of these people that I know are sleeping on mattresses in their big houses.
No kidding. Holy
Mattresses on the
moly.
floor.
Because they can't afford a bed
Yes,
because
we call it styling and profiling and perpetrating the prima donna.
styling and profiling. Okay, I'm gonna remember that one.
Yeah.
Audience, write that one down. That's good. What is your superpower?
Hmm. My dad taught me to be a critical thinker, and thinking critically requires you to be very, very logical. As a matter of fact, in high school, my nickname was Spock. I was always that logical one. And when I started thinking about money and I started researching our system is made for us to fail. We are the proletarians. We're not the ones that are supposed to be wealthy. And what in order for us to break out, I've learned the system and how we as regular everyday people can break out of the system. So my superpower is being able to explain how to break out of the rat race because I've had to break out of the rat race.
And that's a heck of a rat race. It's crazy. So you're a critical thinker. That's powerful when you come from a financial advisor because if I'm not a critical thinker, then you think for me in the sense that you don't. But is that some other powers that you have for your clients?
What they tell me is two things. I've given them information that they've never heard before. A lot of them, the information that I've learned through my stint at the IRS, through me being a CPA, and me being around wealthy people that weren't afraid to talk to me about what they learned. These people learn things they've never heard before. I've had people stand up in seminars and get angry because their CPA or their attorney didn't tell them the things that I was telling them. So getting this new knowledge and understanding that yes, I can do this. You don't have to be a wealthy person to get your finances in order and truly become wealthy. There are a lot of gurus out there telling you different ways to do it, and over the last 40 years I haven't seen much of that work because they don't want you to win. Somebody like me that's been through what I've been through, working at the IRS, being a CPA, and all the stuff I had to go through, I'm going to tell you the truth, and it works if you work it, and that's what I've done. So, you're basically getting the information from the horse's mouth because I've worked this, and I know all of the different strategies that make people, if they are disciplined. If you want to just play around with it, then I can't help you. But if you're going to be disciplined, you will get out of debt and you will learn how to build a business to the point where you can leave a family legacy.
So anybody on this audience listening or watching, including me, can be wealthy.
Yeah, I've put homeless people in business. I put welfare mothers in business. It's just a matter of when you get to the end of your rope and you are disciplined and feel like, you say and you make a decision that I am going to do this. I'm getting out of this situation. Then I'm ready for you.
Okay, you open Pandora's box, which I love. So as a host, it makes it easy for me. Tell us the story about the homeless person.
He just called me on the phone. He had a cell phone, but he said that, he had gotten into some trouble and people weren't, a lot of people aren't forgiving. When you do things that are bad, some people will give you a second chance. People hadn't given him a second chance. He was sleeping on somebody's sofa for a while. And then, because he couldn't get a job, they said, well, hey, you got to go because you're eating here. And, so he's on the streets and he's like, what can I do? Because he saw something maybe on YouTube because what he had a cell phone. And I said, you got a cell phone, we will find you some kind of business that you can operate. In that case, it was more of a network marketing business. Well, he had he borrowed money from a couple of friends to get into a network marketing business that he felt passionate about. So him giving out his link with on his phone, calling people and saying, "Hey, I know I'm trying to get myself together. Will you please look at my product?" He would send them the link on the phone. They started to buy it. He had the money put into someone else's account because he didn't have a bank account, somebody that he trusted. And so, he got on his way as far as he's not a millionaire or anything like that, but you end up in a position where you feel like a man again. You've got an apartment now. You don't have a car. You're still on the bus, but I have a job now. I have a small job because I got the confidence to do this business and I'm able to, get a nice suit. I can go in and interview. I can, because I don't care whether you're working in a warehouse. When you go to your initial interview, you wear a suit. So that's just one of my things. But yeah, that was that situation. The welfare mom had 3 kids. Same thing with her. She didn't have a lot of time. She had more time, and she had more resources than he had. So she had a home, and yeah, she was living in an apartment, and she had a computer. So same thing. That was something small, network marketing. Usually, I don't recommend network marketing, but in those situations, it would have been pretty hard for them to start their own business from scratch. Most of the time, I talk to my clients and I ask them what they're passionate about. I don't want anybody going to a full time job and then coming home in the evening to do something that they don't like.
Okay.
Most of my clients have full time jobs. What I tell them is do your job, come home and decompress for an hour or two, spend time with your family, and then spend an hour or two in your home based business during the week in the evenings and on weekends. You don't have time. My mentor says if you're not making $10,000 a month, you don't have time to watch TV at all. You don't have time to watch the football game and all that. Like, people, I know people that sit there and watch football games and baseball games and all that all weekend long, and until Tom Brady or whoever's playing now starts stroking me a check, my team is the Jackson team.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I love that you said that, and I'm guilty to it. And you reminded me, and she's made me accountable. Yeah, audience, I got to be accountable too. But it also reminds me we're coming up to Christmas, December. Across the board, most people are like, "Oh, that's my slow month." That's bullwicky. That's your best month. Because guess what? You're going to Christmas parties, Thanksgiving parties. You're meeting more people in that month or that 8 weeks, 6 weeks. Same idea, right?
Yes.
Be
Yes.
different.
Yes, and the different thing is also the spending. People just do a whole bunch of overspending. I know people that buy gifts for nieces and nephews that they haven't seen all year, and they want to, show that they are, the big wig or the baller or whatever, and they're spending all this money on these cards, and then come January and February, they're boohooing because they spent all this money. When I was younger, I bought Christmas cards, and they used to call us the broke Jacksons. But those same people are calling me asking for, hey, can I borrow a car note? I'm late on a car note, or I'm late on rent. I'm working. See, we have to, and I got this from another young man. We have to live like no one else, so that later we can live like no one else. I think his name was Farrah Gray, and he had a book called the Realionaire. But yeah, people, it all comes down to, do you really want it, Steve?
And I like that so much because, again, I'm going to fall back to anybody could do this. You're a short woman, you're a black woman, you're an Italian guy, you're homeless,
Been in prison?
been in prison. I mean, it's those are really just excuses, right? I hate to say that, it's probably wrong, but
Right,
really?
right, right, right. You know, when I talk to people, how are you doing? Oh, I'm okay under the circumstances. Well, get from under it. Circumstances means in Latin, you're standing in a self-imposed circle looking out at what other people are doing. So why are you in these circumstances? Get out of the circumstances and get out of the comfort zone. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So when you do that, then all the opportunities will open up for you. Then you'll be able to see them. The scales have fallen from your eyes and you see all these things.
Yeah. You're brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. What's one thing you can tell the audience that none of these other, use the word gurus, are telling people that could help them?
I don't know what the other gurus are saying, but they have to have a business, a viable business. I'm not talking about making up something and not really working it. The tax code is written for businesses, Steve. Obviously, Donald Trump taught us that during the 2016 election when he was running against Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton said, Donald Trump didn't pay his taxes. And everybody sucked all of the air out of the room. And what did they do? They called me. Now, I don't have TV, but I went out online and I saw where she said Donald Trump didn't pay his taxes. He said, I'm a smart man. And I said, yeah, he's a smart man, you all, because he knows how to manipulate the tax code. We have the ability and the right to avoid taxes. So tax avoidance as opposed to tax evasion. So if you're going to figure out the tax code and use the tax code in your favor so that you pay little or no taxes, don't hate on the people that do that. Figure out what they're doing. And that's not what I see going on. I don't see people learning these ways to reduce their taxes. Even their W-2 wages can be reduced if you have a home-based business. And then there are other strategies that you tack on after your business starts to grow.
That is something I've been hearing for years that I don't hear other people. Audience, I asked her a tough question because I didn't prep her for these questions, and that is an answer. So it's hard to start a business. It's not easy. We're not saying it's easy, but when you come into the picture, are you part of this starting a business type information and mentoring for them as part of your business?
Yes. So most of my clients want to be held, their hand held. They are very busy on their jobs and they don't need to be thinking and researching. That's what I do. So first we sit down, I find out who they are. There's a difference between a customer and a client. A customer is somebody that buys something from you online, and your clients are the ones that you have a fiduciary duty to help. So when someone gets in one of my courses, I'm asking them, what do you like to do? What have you been doing? Where is your what profession are you in? Do you want to do a business that's in your profession, or are you just so tired of it that you want to start something new? Do you want to write a book? All these things. So I gather all this information, and then that strategic thinking comes into play based on how much time they have, based on their family dynamics. Do they have one child, no child, four children? All these things come in, and then we come up with two or three businesses that would work, and then we flesh those out to see which one actually comes through for them. Then we start working on that business, all the way from how to set it up with whether it's going to be a corporation or sole proprietorship, whether it's going to be in set up in the state that they live in or a different state. It does make a difference. All these things that people don't tell you, it makes a difference where you plant your business. I only have one business here in Georgia that has a footprint in Georgia, and that's for a reason. I teach them all these things. Then we talk about the kind of debt that they're in, the kind of money that they need to make, how to make that money. Now I have helpers because I'm not the best in marketing. So I have people come in with my team to do marketing, and there are a lot of other things. When they start getting the money, then we start talking about trust and foundations and all that, just like the wealthy do. Because you got the Rockefeller Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Kennedy Foundation, all these different foundations, Warren Buffett's foundation, Warren Buffett, Mike Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, all of them said, "Oh, I'm not going to give my children any money." What they did was they set up their children foundations, and those foundations get the money. So the children get to live out of the foundation tax free. So these are the kind of things that I know, that I teach people that they don't already know. And it really makes a difference in their life forever, because not only do they know it now, their spouses, their children, their extended family, and a family legacy can be built by someone that's just starting out with nothing or just a job.
You're in my head, and that's good for a host, because Bill Gates says that I'm not going to leave any money for my family. But you're saying, and he does say it's foundations, but those foundations, the income goes to their children. Because I can't see a parent, I'm not, my wife is, you are, I can't see you not leaving anything for your kids.
The way they set it up, Steve, is that this foundation gives money to that foundation. That foundation gets a tax write-off. That's what Bill and Belinda Gates did to Warren Buffett. They gave $10 million to Warren Buffett's foundation. Warren Buffett gave $10 million to their foundation, and both of them got a $10 million write-off. Okay. They know, they have people that research. They pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for people to research the tax law and what's available for them. And that's what they use. And we're looking at TV or doing whatever, and that's not what we learn.
Well, and that's, audience, what she's saying is it's not illegal at all. It's legitimate ways of using your money. They just go out and hire a person like you, Dr. Sherry, that knows all this, because we're going to get an IRS on the other side of the show here, because it's going to blow you guys away. That's a powerful statement, that you can do what Bill Gates and Warren Buffett can do. You can do that.
Right, because the tax law it doesn't discriminate and say only the wealthy people that are wealthy already can do it. We have to get to the point where we know how to do it and we have the money to do it. And it starts with making that decision that I'm no longer going to be a slave to the system, because we'll get into that later, but that's where it starts.
Rarely is Steve Ramona speechless, but it's amazing to me, because it's not that hard. Of course, I couldn't do it myself because I don't have the time or the resource. I probably could find the resources, but time and availability. again, I'm coming back to you. That's where you come in and go, I tell you, okay, I'm going to meet with you January 1st. My goal is in 3 years to have 5 million in a bank account. That would be your whole, what I'm going to pay you, and your value is to give me that game, the playbook, I call it, Sporty,
Right.
the playbook to get there.
Right. That's right. So I've got one of a particular client. It's a husband and wife team. He's building a business. She's building a business, and she's writing 2 books. So we meet once a week, and we go over, where are you with it? How have you written another chapter? Let me hear the chapter. Have you done these other things to start this business? Have you done the research? Have you found the people that'll set up your Shopify account? All these things.
Boy, you make it sound too easy.
To me, it's not really hard. It's just a matter of
No.
your time and your discipline.
Yeah, your mindset, discipline, it's exactly that. What would you tell somebody like that asks or says this to you? Yeah, but I only have $50 in the bank.
You have something to give to the marketplace. You have value in the marketplace. So you could start a business with no money. For example, what about thinking about what you know and going online to social media, starting a YouTube channel? You get subscribers that way. There are 8 ways, Steve, to make money on YouTube. 8. There are no excuses. There are 8 ways to do that. Now, what I do is pull out of the person what they can do. What is your value in the marketplace? That's what we pull out in the initial meetings. So it doesn't mean that you have to go do, I mean, if you don't have a phone or you don't have a computer, then we have to work with that. You may have to borrow some money from some relatives or something to get a little bit of equipment, but it's not going to be like you got to have $2,500 to start a business. No, you don't.
Yeah. And the synergy is you start my business, I start rock and roll, I start making $1 million a year, and now you manage my money. So it's I pay less in tax. I forget the word, but I'll just say this: pay less in taxes. I
Right.
keep more of my money, and you help my money grow.
Right. So tax evasion. So I'll give you
That's
the
taxi.
strategies that I have learned to make sure that you keep, protect, and grow that money.
And audience, tax evasion is not illegal.
Tax
I mean,
avoidance is not
avoidance
illegal.
is
Right.
illegal. Tax, yeah, don't
You
do
have
tax
the right
evasion.
to
Thank you.
avoid taxes as much as you can.
See, audience, I love being a host because I get corrected all the time, which is great because I get to learn from that. We're coming to our break here. What's one thought you'd leave somebody that just wants to be financially free?
Look at what you have right now. Look at what you're doing with what you have right now. Search deep in your heart to ask yourself, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this what I need to be doing with my resources, or is just what I want to be doing with my resources? If it's a need, then there's still room to grow. If there's a want, you've got to give up the conspicuous consumption.
Conspicuous consumption. I love that. Audience, I can't say it any better. This first segment's been incredible. We learned a lot from Dr. Sherry how to be wealthy the right way, not the wrong way. And I say that with that strength because, as Dr. Sherry's mentioned, I've seen many people have done it the wrong way, either illegally or with ego, and not ego, which is empowering greater outcomes, the other ego, which helps you be greedy and you're going to do something illegal and not do the right thing. So with that, we're going to jump on a quick video about Dr. Sherry and take a break, let her get some water. She's been speaking for a long time. If you have any questions, this is live. Put them in the chat box. I'll make sure Dr. Sherry answers. I'll get her contact info out because if you're thinking about, I need help with my finances, and not just from a financial advisor standpoint, much deeper than that. That's what I love about her. That's why she's on the show. She's a business strategist, meaning your business is going to make you money and you're going to keep growing. So think about that as you keep growing. We'll be back in about 5 to 10 minutes.
Hi, and welcome to the Escape the Rat Race channel. I'm Dr. Sherry Peel Jackson, author, speaker, retired CPA, and former IRS agent, and this channel is dedicated to those that want to escape the rat race. What do I mean by the rat race? You know, getting up at the crack of dawn or whatever time you have to get up for work, working all week till you're burned out, getting paid and having those funds last less than a day due to bills and taxes. Then pressing rinse and repeat to start again the next week. Per various studies, 86% of the people that work for someone else don't like their jobs. And these people know that if something happened to them, the company will just replace them and keep it moving. I'm here to make sure that something does happen to you. I want you to be able to keep, protect, and grow the money you earn. Over the years, I've learned that only having a job as your source of income will keep you in the rat race. So I try to find simple ways for people to increase their income, reduce taxes, build wealth, and create a legacy to leave behind for their children and grandchildren. I've been through a lot on my journey to expose the truth about our financial world, and I know things are continuously changing for the worse for the average family. Therefore, I'm not afraid to continue to speak out about our financial injustices so you won't have to settle for the status quo and be stuck in a perpetual rat race for life. I'm also not afraid to share the secrets that I've learned from wealthy individuals and business owners so that you won't have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to your escape plan to get off at the next exit ramp. On this channel, we'll talk mostly about financial matters, but within those discussions, I'll show you that I practice what I preach. We'll discuss ways to build wealth and acquire hard assets. My home and our future community on the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica are near and dear to my heart. So along with discussing financial freedom, we'll also talk about purchasing international real estate and how to build your plan B abroad. I'm here to help you understand the state of finances in the U.S. and what you can do to protect yourself and at the same time thrive in any economy. So sit back and open your mind to absorb the sound financial wisdom that I'll be sharing so that you can step into action and escape the rat race.
Welcome to segment 2 with Together We Serve. Well, that first segment, I have a bunch of notes I've been writing down here about being wealthy. Wealth is a perception, meaning Is $250,000 a year? Is that wealthy to you in financial freedom? Or is it 10 million a year or 10 million for your career? Whatever that number is, you need to figure out what your financial freedom is. And as you realize and listen to Dr. Sherry, she can help you get there. But also there's another side of her that is going to blow you away. When somebody has something that people don't want to hear, it can cause a ripple effect that is not so good. And it's something that you need to stick to your guns, stick to what you believe in, stick to what you know, and don't let anybody take that away from you. So with that being said, let me reduce the music. Actually, I'll stop that beautiful music. I'm bouncing around. I'm loving it. Let's bring Dr. Sherry back. Welcome back, Dr. Sherry.
Thank you, Steve. It was nice music. I'm sitting over here bouncing too.
Yeah, I saw you bouncing. That's great. That's good pick. Hey, I do something right once in a while. I love it. Good host. Yeah. So let's dive into this. When I first met you in my podcast, and before and after, I was blown away. We'll talk about the book in a minute, but tell us your story. You did a documentary on Netflix. I'd love for you to share that story with our audience.
Okay, so when I was an IRS agent, I learned a lot of things about the IRS, and I quit the IRS for family reasons. But after I quit the IRS, people were coming to me and saying, hey, that income tax is being misrepresented and misapplied to the American people, and we're not supposed to be the ones that are paying income taxes. They're supposed to be imposed excises, tariffs, and duties on other countries for the privilege of doing business in the United States, and all these other things I was hearing when I quit. And so, I was listening to it and putting it on the back burner of my mind. But in 2000, a series of things happened, one of which is someone told me about the USA Today paper. We the People Foundation for Constitutional Education was putting ads out in the USA Today every Friday. And the ad that the person told me about said, "Dear We the People, the income tax is a fraud." So I'm reading this thing. I'm, quitting the IRS. I just quit, and all this stuff is going on. It's like, okay, what is this about? And I quit several years before that, started my CPA firm, and I was rolling with that. But, these things kept coming up. People from state senators in Texas to just regular old people were saying, I've heard about some research that the income tax doesn't apply to us. So this USA Today in July of 2000 had a $50,000 reward in there to prove that anybody had to file an income tax return or pay the income tax. That was one thing in that USA Today ad. The other was a book that was available from another former IRS agent. His name was Joe Bannister, and he was from the Criminal Investigation Division of the IRS, and he had done 2.5 years of research because he was listening to these people say that the income tax is a fraud. So on his own time, on weekends, he would go out and interview these people who were making these claims. So he came to the conclusion that there was something to what they were saying. He wrote a very large, very factual report and gave it to his supervisors at his job at the IRS. And they told him that he would not be getting any answers to this report and that he needed to take a few days off to figure out whether he's going to stay or tender his resignation. So he took those days off and he quit. And somebody else made that report into a book. So I ordered a couple of those books. I let him know that I was hearing the same things and I was going to have a seminar and talk to people about it. So he called me when he got my little check for the books, and we hooked up from then. We were traveling with the We the People Foundation for Constitutional Education, basically telling people what we've learned. We never told people to file or not to file. We never told people to pay or not to pay, but we were telling them to do their own research and decide whether they want to be a slave or get off the plantation, because there's a definition of, slavery. Listen to this. If stealing the 100% of the product of someone's labor is slavery, at what percentage is it not slavery? And that rung out in my mind. In addition to that, there's a man named G. Edward Griffin. He wrote a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island. And basically, that was a story behind how this income tax and the Federal Reserve got started. So, this thing was all put together by these wealthy barons, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and all these people that got together on Jekyll Island in Georgia, took separate trains down so that people couldn't see these robber barons coming together and know that something was going on. So in 1913, the income tax pops up, you've got the Federal Reserve, and then all of us, no matter what color we are locked into slavery. So I decided that I worked too hard for them to be taking this much money from me because I was making really good money by then. And I started to speak out about it. So Joe Bannister, John Turner, and I, which were all from different divisions of the IRS and had quit the IRS, started speaking around the country, and I was speaking even more than them. And the government got mad at us. We became more than just low flying gnats on the government's radar screen. Then Aaron Russo, who made Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and The Rose with Bette Midler, had a beef with the IRS. So he decided to do a documentary called America, Freedom to Fascism. He had all of us former IRS agents in there, a couple more, former FBI agent, attorneys, historians, and of course, Ed Griffin was in there. And this documentary came out. It was in regular movie theaters for a week, and then they banned it. So it went out to the smaller theaters, and then it went online. But it's basically saying, hey, do this research, and you'll know that, your hard-earned resources are being stolen. And I want to break this down the way I break stuff down. Say, audience, I'm going to call somebody Bobby. Bobby, you and I make an agreement that I'm going to come over and cut your grass for $100. That's a contract that we made between each other. I come over and I use my arms, my legs, and my brain to cut your grass in the front and back in exchange for $100. In exchange. So I exchange my life force, time that I'll never get back again, in exchange for the $100. Now, let's flip the script over to Walmart, the smallest Walmart in the United States. Let's say yesterday made $100,000 gross, but they get to deduct the rent for the building, they get to deduct the salaries, they get to deduct the utilities and the cost of all of the stuff that they bought from China. So after the $100,000 gross, let's say their expenses were $80,000. Walmart's only paying tax on $20,000, not the whole $100,000. But we're paying tax on the whole $100,000, even though our life force is gone and forever gone. We can't get that back. So even if you don't do the research and find out that it's really illegal, then it's immoral. They're supposed to be getting tax from other countries for the privilege of doing business here. You look at the Constitution, imposts, excises, duties, and tariffs. And I'm hearing tariffs again right now, by the way. So me speaking out and everybody else speaking out, the government decided to prosecute us. They prosecuted Joe first. He had a good set of attorneys, and his jury acquitted him because they got a chance to see Joe in action. They saw some videos. And then Vernie Kuglin, she was a Federal Express pilot that hadn't filed. They went after her and they lost. Then they had Tommy Cryer. This man was a lawyer in Shreveport, Louisiana, that wrote a 109-page memo that had all the U.S. Constitution, U.S. Supreme Court and state Supreme Court cases that says income is corporate profits, just like we talked about. So he was acquitted. And then my case was next, and they could not afford to lose another case. So they sent people down from Washington, D.C. to Atlanta to prosecute me. It was just a kangaroo court. I didn't get a chance to talk to the jury and tell them, how the law that Tommy used, the Supreme Court cases. They didn't get a chance to hear any of my videos because the judge kept saying, I will instruct the jury on the law. And they were afraid. I wanted my attorney to ask the potential jurors, would they be afraid to acquit me for fear that they would be audited by the IRS? I wasn't allowed to ask that question. These people are fearful of the IRS. Even the judges are. So long story short, I was convicted on willful failure to file tax returns, which I'd stopped filing tax returns. And there were 4 years in there where I was making six figures. But that's a misdemeanor, y'all. They gave me a 4-year sentence on a misdemeanor. That's unprecedented. You got people that do other things to people, to small children that are unthinkable, that don't get 4 years. But they wanted to shut me up, and that's what they were determined to do. Didn't work, though.
Well, and you didn't spend the whole time, and I still got goosebumps. And to this day, you're still telling me you get visits from the FBI, correct?
I did right after I got out.
Yeah.
They maybe within the first 6 months, I was getting visits from the FBI, but I told them where they could stick it. I did spend 3 of those 4 years in a federal prison camp. I got 6 months good time and 6 months halfway house. But it just taught me another lesson. My father told me to use it as a university. So I made sure that I kept myself physically and mentally fit, because I basically said, you will not break me. And now I have a whole nother story that I talk about is the prison industrial complex. So, but again, truth is truth for everybody, or it's not truth at all. And the truth is, we have the unalienable right. Remember, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal with certain unalienable rights, not inalienable, unalienable. You cannot put a lien on the rights that God gave me to use my arms, legs, and brain to feed my family, and that's what's happening, and it's wrong.
And what would you have got if it was a misdemeanor time?
Pardon?
How much time would you have spent in prison with a misdemeanor?
It was a misdemeanor. One of the definition of misdemeanor is 1 year. Yes.
Okay, and you
So
spent
what she did was she put a misdemeanor for that year and a misdemeanor for that year, and that year. So they strung 4 1-year sentences together is what they did, because they were so angry that I was. See, taxes, Steve, are a racially unifying issue. And you know how they try to do this civil. It doesn't matter what color you are, black, blue, green. Doesn't matter whether you're Muslim, Jew, Christian. None of that matters. All of us are in the same boat when it comes down to wanting to keep our money. I think that's why the election came out the way it is. But they were fearful. They were fearful of me.
Yeah. Talk about the book, because I think you dive into this a little bit with the book.
So I think you're talking about how to stick it to the IRS. So
yes,
because I actually have 9 books, but yeah. So when I came home, long story short, I wrote 2 books at the same time. One is called How to Escape the Rat Race: 4 Keys to Acquire the Life of Your Dreams. But my flagship book is called How to Stick It to the IRS: Confessions from a Former Insider. And it basically goes into how to win an audit when they come after you. People are so deathly afraid of the IRS, which I call the insidious representatives of Satan, by the way, because they take money away from people that have good things that they need to do with their money, feeding their families, taking care of their elderly parents and all that. And they do stuff with it, like send it overseas for stuff that we don't want. So it teaches people how to win an audit. It teaches people about getting a business and deducting, all of the things they can deduct, because remember I said that the tax code is written for businesses. So that's my flagship book. That's the one that sells 3 to 1 over the other ones. My newer book is probably going to be up there because I've co-authored that with my mentor, Dr. Myron Golden. But yeah, we want to make sure that people have the resources in book form, and if they go to the YouTube channel, to make those differences. There's no excuse. I've got a bracelet, Steve, that says no excuses, and I'm just that hardline person about it. That's how I was raised. My father's very pragmatic. There's no such thing as luck, Sherry. Luck is when preparation and opportunity meet. And this is always be prepared. He taught me how to play chess. And although I don't play now, I understand the concept, and chess is life.
Yeah. Amen. Man, that's a credible story. Audience, if you have questions, reach out to her. But I do want to talk about something fun. We got serious a little bit there, but it was important because I want people to hear it, because I'm sharing it with people I meet, as I told you. But we got a fun little December 14th event coming up, a masterclass. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I thought about it, and when I on my YouTube channel, I have basically the same people, my little tribe, and I thought about it. We're going into 2025. We need to thrive in 2025. So our theme is Let's Thrive in 2025. So I decided to get with the people that maybe had a business or had some things that they can do before the end of the year to make sure that their 2024 tax returns have as many deductions as possible, and at the same time start preparing them to start their business or grow their business in 2025. So we're going to spend 4 hours, and people spend that on the weekends watching football. They can be talking to me, making sure that they've got everything in place to make sure that they reduce the taxes as much as possible for 2024, the ideas about starting their business for 2025 or growing their business for 2025, and just general, how are we going to really thrive? There's a lot of stuff going on, and I think that the operative word for the day is uncertainty. But we don't need to be stuck in a vacuum of uncertainty. We need to be strategically thinking about how we and our families are going to thrive in 2025. So that's why I put that for December 14th.
I'm going to leave that up for your audience so you can have access. I'll put it in notes. You'll see it, or you can reach out to her. By the way, how can people find you, connect with you?
They can go to my website, sherrypeeljackson.com, or my email is connect@sherrypeeljackson.com if they have questions. I answer simple questions, but I have consulting packages from 1 hour all the way up to a year plus, and it depends on where they are and what they want. But I will, I'm a heck of a researcher, so when they need some information, then I'll come up with the information for them to help them make their decisions. If they want hand holding for 3 months, 6 months, a year, then I do that also. I don't let my clients disappear. If they tell me they're going on vacation, yeah, I'll put that on my calendar. But if they just disappear, it's like, I'm calling. Where are you? What are you doing? Because I produce results. I want people to be able to say what my client testimonies are saying. The value that I've given them is just unbelievable. So that's what I want to keep going on. And that people do start these businesses. They are able, some of them, to quit their jobs after a while, especially if they don't like their jobs. It's good to stay on there because you get your health care benefits and all those things. But once your business gets to growing at the point where it's making as much as your job, I have one friend, he wasn't one of my clients, but his name is Norm, and he had a job and he started his business. 3 years later, his business was making just as much as his job. So at Christmas time, he went to the office Christmas party, dressed up as Santa Claus. He had a big bag of gifts, and he gave all his coworkers gifts. And then he gave his boss a gift and leaned over and said, "I'm going to have to fire you. I'm not coming back in January." So that was that. And I think that's a beautiful story because he
Beautiful.
was very patient. He didn't just quit his job, when the business, because that's a fallacy. It might be just a fad. Wait 3 years. It's a lot of work. You don't have a lot of free time. You get to go to work and then you get to come home and you do this business, but delayed gratification. Then he has his business up and running. He wakes up when his eyes opens, and he goes to sleep when his eyes close. No alarm clock, no, I've got to do this and I've got this report. I think it's better when people have a routine that they've created than a routine that someone else has.
Amen to that. Real quick, we're coming to the end here. What should people do for 2025? What's one tip for their taxes and their finances?
For 2025, they need to start a home-based business, and they need to understand all of the great deductions that the corporations take, because you can deduct the same things that the corporations take. So making sure that you understand what is and is not deductible, how you can maneuver the tax code in your favor. If you're making $90,000 on a job and you start a home-based business and you're able to make money, but then deduct everything legally but the kitchen sink, let's say you have a $10,000 loss on your business the first year. That $10,000 loss goes to make that $90,000 salary now $80,000. So you're paying much less in taxes. And these are the things that I teach the clients to do. Always make sure that the money that you earn stays with you. Keep it, protect it, and grow it.
Okay, we got a minute left. I want to ask you this question for fun. You've made me a lot of money. I bought a Learjet. So I'm putting you in the Learjet. There's 3 empty seats. Who would you invite, dead or alive, and where would you fly?
Oh, gracious. Let's see. I would invite, of course, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because I got questions
Amen.
for him. Number
Yeah.
one, I would invite my dad because he likes to travel with me all the time. And I think I would invite, let's see, the last one is probably going to be my mentor because he's the one that basically spreads the word about growing businesses. And so wherever we go, which probably I would go, I would want to go somewhere that I haven't gone, which I haven't been to Tokyo. So go to
Amen.
Tokyo and then figure out how we can start some kind of business between the United States and Tokyo to make some money.
God bless you. What a fantastic show. You're an incredible guest. I knew you would be. Your smile lights me up. I love it. Audience, reach out to her. If money is an issue for you, reach out and connect with her and see if she's a fit. To be honest, I know she will be. It's important. We need money. Unfortunately, the world is all about money. We need it. We need to pay our bills, but we also need to save it and we need to protect it. And this is what Dr. Sherry does. And I want to protect your money as well. With that being said, we'll see you next week on Together We Serve, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. You all have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Steve.
everybody. Thank you.